Parks and Recreation Supervisor.
Sorry,
We
Parks and
will need to
Recreation
do a roll
Commission.
call. I'm sorry, the Parks and Recreation Commission. And we will ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Casissa?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas? Here. Vice Mayor Ravazio?
Here.
Mayor Beckman is absent from this meeting.
So we have a moment now for open time for public comment. If there is anybody who would like to comment on something on this agenda, correct?
Correct. For item
On the
3 only.
agenda. And if there is no public comment, is there anything online?
We don't have any hands raised online. We did receive emailed public comment and they were previously shared with council and they're available on the website for the public to view. There's no additional public comment.
Okay, so with that, we will begin our presentation by staff. Staff will give us a staff report on what we're doing and why.
Okay, so every year, council conducts interviews to appoint individuals for upcoming vacancies on our town boards and commissions and committees. This year, we're going to start with interviews for the Parks and Recreation Commission as there were more applications received than positions available. A staff report was provided and published with the agenda packet along with the applications of the applicants. Staff is recommending that while there are 4 opportunities available to be filled, 3 of them for full terms, meaning a term that would begin on July 1st, 2024, and then expire June 30th, 2026. And then there is 1 term that is a vacant term. It hasn't been filled since last year. Prior to setting up the agenda and the interviews, the order of the interviews, staff inquired with the applicants to determine if they were applying for a full term or the vacant term. And we received responses from all of the applicants. There are 3 applicants applying for a full term and 1 for a vacant term. But staff is recommending only to fill 2 full terms and the current vacant term, and then leave 1 of the terms available for a youth member. We've been getting interest in youth to join our boards, commissions, and committees, and we'd like to take the opportunity to recruit for a youth member to fill a position on the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you very much. Our first candidate is Alden Miles. Is Alden here?
She is on here via Zoom. She'll be doing a virtual presentation, interview, sorry, not
Okay.
presentation.
I can see her there very tiny on my screen. So I guess we should just begin, or how do we?
Did council have any questions for staff on the, okay.
Sorry.
I provided a script.
Yes.
All applicants received the questions in advance. So we will start with Alden Miles, and should be able to speak.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
She is.
Hi. Thank you to the council for the flexibility. It is my son's birthday today, so I appreciate being able to be here and be present, both with you for a few minutes and then with him for the rest of the evening.
Awesome. I need to ask you to make your opening statement. This is your opportunity to share a little about yourself, your family, your involvement with any other organizations in town, anything that you would like with the council. And I guess there's going to be a timer running for 1 minute.
Great. So I moved to Corte Madera in 2015 from the East Coast. I live in Chapman Park with my husband and 2 sons, one who is 7 today and the other who will be 9 imminently. Our boys are active in the youth programming, including after-school classes and sports. I have served 3 terms in the Parks and Rec Commission. First as a programming subcommittee member, and then more recently as the master plan subcommittee, and currently as the commission chair. I am the founder and president of the Corte Madera FC Scholarship Fund, which is a completely independent group working with the Corte Madera Community Foundation to raise money to support kids who are interested in playing sports with Corte Madera and do not have the financial means to do so.
Okay, three questions that I think you also got in advance. First, what is it about this commission that interests you? What qualities, experience, and expertise would you bring? And you have 2 minutes for this.
So, having spent a lot of time in Corte Madera, and part of my passion for starting the scholarship fund and being part of the commission is this belief that we can create incredible communities when we lean into that opportunity. And our parks and our recreation programming is such a great way to bring diverse members of our community together to experience the joy of being together and really enjoy kind of making our community even bigger and stronger. Professionally, from a work perspective, I work in tech. My role is a product manager, which is really the goal of it is to set a vision, to align people to that vision, and then to build a plan to make that vision a reality. That is not so different from what we're trying to do here with the Parks and Rec Commission in terms of setting out a plan and a vision to bring the community together, to provide programming and places for people to commune and enjoy each other, and that passion for kind of not just the having communities and believing in them, but also the plans and the operating mechanisms to actually make that a reality is what I hope to bring to another term of the commission.
Excellent. And Lorraine, if I could just for a moment break, you don't need to run the timer on there. I can actually run it so that you don't need to take her off screen to have the timer running. So I'll go ahead and take the timer, okay? We're new at Town Hall, so there's a few little snafus tonight. So again, I think you've already covered this a little bit, but it's asking for your familiarity with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And what challenges do you see for Corte Madera Parks and Recreation in the next 5 years? Again, 2 minutes.
Yeah. So I have been part of the master planning process officially for the last 4 years and kind of on the sidelines of it for my first 2 years in the commission. We have a big plan with a lot of big ideas. So that's going to be complicated from a budgeting perspective. It's going to be needing to work across a lot of the different departments in town to bring some of these ideas to life. There will still be some kind of consensus alignment and rallying of the community involved in that. So the transparent decision-making and continuous communication across the various departments, but also with the public as well about how we're moving forward with the various priorities is going to be a big piece. We will also have to reckon with our changing environmental needs and kind of as the parks develop and as our climate change continues to develop, kind of be able to react to unforeseen things that are happening.
Okay, very good. Corte Madera has many different types of residents, including, for example, families with young children, retirees with grown children, and single people. As a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, how would you balance the interests of these different groups?
Yeah, I very much appreciate this question because I think it is very easy to think everyone is just like me. So as part of the commission, really actively seek out folks who are not sports parents. And I think that is both in a couple of formal and informal ways are valuable to do this. So informally, reaching out to my neighbors and other members of my community who have different backgrounds, differing ages, differing life stages and kid stages with and without those. And then formally, as part of the commission, reaching out with our surveys, inviting and soliciting feedback, both kind of formally in meetings, as well as kind of official events where we have done everything from our dot voting of the bathrooms and kind of getting feedback from across the community that way. But the one I find the most joy in is really being able to connect with neighbors and friends and more of that informal getting feedback, soliciting, listening to people, hearing how they're using the community events in the parks, and being there myself, kind of seeing it and observing it.
Okay, thank you for that. So next comes this commitment question, and it's quite long, and I see all the other candidates here. So keep in mind, I may not read it in full each time. The Parks and Recreation Commission meets on the fourth Monday of each month, plus occasional special meetings as needed. Meetings begin at 6:30 PM, run approximately 2 hours on average, and commissioners are required to attend in person. In addition to regular meeting attendance, commission members are expected to read the agenda materials provided, typically posted the Friday prior to the meeting, and come prepared to discuss agenda items. Committee members may also participate in ad hoc subcommittees that conduct research and/or outreach outside of meeting times. Considering these expectations, do you, Alden Miles, feel you are able to commit to the term you are applying for on the Parks and Recreation Commission?
Yes, I do.
Then you may give your closing statement of 1 minute.
I just want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure serving at the Corte Madera community for the last 3 terms, and it would be an honor to continue.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our next candidate.
Okay, if I may, just
Oh, wait,
one
yes.
quick point of order, Lorena. Since Pat read all the questions for the first candidate, do all the questions have to be read for each candidate, or can we just skip that part and just use the numbers?
We can skip that part and just use the numbers as long as the candidates heard them. And we also have a copy of the questions at the podium for those present.
And not to worry,
Thank you.
I'll summarize the questions for you too, and not to worry. Okay, so we just keep going? Is that, we just go with our next candidate, who is
Yes.
Kim Baez?
And Alden, you're welcome to stay on. Otherwise, staff will be reporting back to any applicants who don't stay through the entirety of the meeting. Thank you for being here.
Yes, there were questions that were provided for you, and I think they're probably sitting right there. Is that them? It says Parks and Recreation Commission. Yeah, you might want to lift that up a bit. Okay, we can hear an opening statement for 1 minute.
I was a member of the Parks and Rec Commission from '05 through 2014. I've been involved in the community for many, many years. Regarding Parks and Rec specifically, I was part of the master plan that was reviewed in '07, '07 through '09. Skunk Hollow Park was remodeled at one point, and I helped review as former contractor. Also, I helped review the bids and requirements for Skunk Hollow, as well as for Cafe Verde when it was becoming in addition or contiguous to the park, but in addition, again, as a contractor, I reviewed the different plans that we came up with. Of course, we had design review and everything that was taken a look at, but also it's another set of eyes that knew ADA codes and things like that.
So what is it about the commission, being on the Parks and Recreation Commission, that interests you, and what qualities, experience, and expertise would you bring?
Well, some of the expertise, like I say, is that of, well, for one, I've been in the neighborhood since 1975, and it's very near and dear to me. As a teenager, I played in this park. So now, many moons later, I'm back. But I bring, again, expertise as a builder and project management. So I'm able to review, pardon me, like when the rec center was being remodeled. I have a brick there also with my name on it. When it was being remodeled, I was also able to review the different bids and designs to make sure that it would meet the needs of the community and not just meet the codes required, meeting the needs.
And what is your familiarity with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan? And then what challenges do you see facing Parks and Recreation in the next 5 years?
I believe I actually have a copy of the master plan, and I was on when we were reviewing it. Again, I think it was in '07. We were looking at a variety of different things, examining costs and weighing the values of things such as rebuilding the bathroom that's on the corner of the park, remodeling the skate park to what we have today. And of course, it's going to be renovated once again, which it needs. And
Great.
I think that's a good start. So I'm very familiar with the master plan.
Corte Madera has many different types of residents, including, for example, families with young children, retirees with grown children, single people. As a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, how would you balance the interests of these different groups?
Well, everything from toddlers to seniors. We have the range. Where the needs are right now, I think some of the groundwork that was put into place when I was on the commission regarding the summer camp, I think is vitally important. We were able to get scholarships, and I know that tradition has continued. And I was on the commission when those scholarships were first introduced. And I think that's a very valuable thing to the community. We are such a diverse community, socioeconomic, from the people that might be dishwashers in the restaurants to the people that are buying Teslas and Jaguars that were, the different dealerships that are here. We've got that huge socioeconomic, and I think making sure that we cater to all of the needs of the community. One of the things that hasn't been on the master plan and that hasn't been, I don't think, on the radar of Parks and Rec is Higgins Landing. And I'd like to discuss that at some point, whether I'm on the commission or not.
Okay, so then comes the commitment question. You heard me ask it earlier. It basically says, can you attend as needed meetings on fourth Monday of each month? And you know the drill, 2 hours average, and reading and staying up and being involved. And are you ready and able to make that commitment?
Absolutely.
Then I invite you to make a closing 1-minute statement.
Not necessarily a fresh set of eyes that would be looking at this, but I've stepped away from Parks and Rec for a while, and I'm now coming back to it. I'd like to come back to it with not a different vision, but abilities as the town has grown. I've stayed in touch with what's happening with Parks and Rec, and I think there are new needs to be met. I think those need to be looked at. But again, the socioeconomic has changed in the last 20 years since I was first on the Parks and Rec Commission, and there needs to be looked at.
Thank you. Thank you
you.
so much. Thanks you for applying and for coming in. Up next is Tim Rose. Hi, Tim. You know the drill by now. So could you give us a 1-minute opening statement?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for coming on in. Love the new building, by the way. My name is Tim Rose. I know some of you, some new faces as well, but I am a longstanding citizen for Marin County. I was born and raised here in Tiburon. Moved to here in Corte Madera with my wife and 3 kids 12 years ago. I really have got a long history here. It's such a fantastic place to grow up and as well as raise kids. It took me a little bit of time to figure that out, but I really hope to continue the tradition that I had growing up for the new generations, as well as maintain the consistent assets that we all have for other groups as well. As far as, well, we can get to the other questions where I can go into my background.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, the first question where you have 2 minutes to give us an answer is, what is it about the Parks and Rec Commission that interests you? What qualities, expertise, and experience would you bring?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, a big part of my childhood growing up was exposure to sports and activities, and we live in a very, very rare place. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been around, and very few places compared to what we have here. I want to continue again that tradition for new generations, such as exposure to sports, aftercare. I mean, it's really a community that looks after each other. I feel that Parks and Recs is a great opportunity for me to be able to give back what I have been the benefactor of all the years growing up. From an experience standpoint, I've got a diverse background. I've worked in the nonprofit sector for quite some time. I've started up 3 startups. I've worked with state governments as well as federal governments. I've learned a lot in some successes as well as some mistakes that were made along the way. And I hope to be able to pass that experience on and help guide in an advisory capacity to the Parks and Recs Department as well as to council. That's what the master plan.
And that leads to, what is your familiarity with the Parks and Rec Master Plan? And what are the challenges that you see going forward for the next 5 years?
Absolutely. Very familiar with the master plan. I've been on the commission for the last 2 years. We've used it as a fantastic guide to be able to identify missing needs. I don't like to use the words deficiency, but also a way to be able to capture data and prioritize all of the needs of that community and actually provide a path forward to be able to implement a lot of these programs. What was the second part of that question again? It was
What do you see as the challenges for Parks and Rec going forward?
Yeah, so there are very lofty goals. There are so many different projects that are underway that need to be tackled. It's very overwhelming. So prioritization, I think, is kind of the big issue, and how to be able to handle that with the resources that we have, keeping in mind things like economies of scale, if there are projects that make sense to do sooner than later, also what the demand is, what target demographic the projects may be a fit for. So I think that that's probably the number one challenge. I think also as things evolve, the master plan's been underway for quite some time. New ideas come up. There's additional feedback that we need from the community. It's very difficult getting feedback in the commission. We wish that we had 50 people all giving their valuable input every meeting. It's very, very hard. So I think outreach, we need to do better on reaching out to the community. I mean, a lot of the information you pick up sitting on the sidelines of soccer games, or talking with aftercare program managers and things like that. So I think more of a connection between the community and the commission, as well as providing a nice feedback loop to get them information.
Corte Madera has many different types of residents, including families, retirees, seniors, single people. How do we serve them all?
It's a very, very important question. We do have a lot of regular people that that call in and identify the same issues. And we need to address that a lot better. The elderly community in particular, they've had programs that we've tried to initiate, but even just simple locations for meeting space for activities and things like that. They're very, very simple and don't even really cut into budget. So I think we need to have much more open ears for demographics like that, as well as low-income housing folks that need a little bit help with aftercare, scholarship programs. These are voices that we don't hear enough in the commissioner meetings. So I think, again, listening out and bringing more people in to the commissions would be a big help.
Great. And the commitment question, which I think since you've already been serving, you probably are aware of what the commitment is. So are you willing and able to make the commitment required?
Absolutely.
Then if so, I invite you to give a 1-minute opening or closing statement.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity for the last 2 years. I've really enjoyed it. I've met a lot of great people. I've seen a lot of projects underway. I'm really, really excited about the ones that are coming in. For instance, the bathrooms at Town Park. I'm very excited to see that come to fruition. I think that the master plan is very exciting to not just me, but my family. I like being a part of that, and any way I can help my community, I would be more than willing to do. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in and for your application. Thanks so much. And up next, we have Patty Stolier.
Thank you to the council for hearing me today. I
Would you
can't-
like to give your 1-minute opening
I
statement?
can't possibly extemporaneously say everything, so I'm going to read.
Okay, just go.
This is my opening statement. I have lived in Corte Madera since 1979, raised 2 daughters here, one of whom is developmentally disabled and participates in your Friday Rec Inc. programs, and one a UCLA honors grad. I live in a condo where, after many years serving as board president, I earned accreditation as a certified manager of community associations, and for 20 years was the on-site manager there. Starting in the mid-'80s, I have volunteered with many Corte Madera groups, the Citizens Advisory Housing Committee, Disaster Committee, Diamond Jubilee, Disability Advisory, Centennial, CERT, Marin Medical Reserve Corps, NRGs, and then 10 years ago founded Age Friendly Corte Madera. I was honored as Citizen of the Year in 2008 and Senior Volunteer of the Year in 2022. That's me.
Congratulations on all those things. So your questions, what is it about the Parks and Rec Commission that interests you, and what qualities and expertise would you bring?
I strongly feel that recreation reflects the soul and priorities of our community. I unquestionably believe that the town has a responsibility to bring accessible and affordable opportunities for play and amusement to all our residents. In the years that the meetings have been made available on Zoom, I've attended them virtually monthly. Working on so many prior Corte Madera projects and committees, I've definitely learned to play well with others and readily offer up my capabilities for the greater good. To help a team function well, I like to see the global overview and then break it down so everyone can clearly understand the components of whatever is being discussed, trying to avoid distracting rabbit holes or unlikely ramifications. I'm very much about fact-based decision-making, but also willing to try out feasible pilot projects if there are multiple requests from the community.
Thank you. And our second question, what is your familiarity with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan? And what do you see the challenges are moving forward for the next 5 years?
As I said, I have routinely attended the Parks and Rec meetings remotely and stayed up to speed on agenda items. That allowed me to follow all the phases required to come to the final version of the current master plan. Of course, I was disappointed that my recommendation in the community survey to differentiate the quantified visits to the rec center during the time the intergenerational center was there versus before and after was dismissed. But the most apparent challenges I see are 5. 1, I hope the vision to collaborate with Age-Friendly Corte Madera on an intergenerational/senior center for Corte Madera comes to fruition in the near future, and that I might play a role in fostering its launch and growth. Speaking of seniors, finalizing a bench program not requiring you to be dead and reinstating the Corte Madera Senior Fair would be welcome additions. 2, it is so important to have input from younger members of our community beyond a voice on the Park and Rec Commission. Maybe some sort of brainstorming session or sessions during the summer might yield more suggestions for what might attract teens and preteens, such as live music in the park with food trucks, a townwide talent show, a skateboard contest, battle of the bands. I see a need for Corte Madera to evaluate its philosophy of recreation and its role in the overall town budget. Is recreation something that should be self-sustaining, or maybe more like the library system is to the county? 4, with plans to update and improve Menke Park, we want to be sure the design creates a gathering space that best solves the shortcomings of the current setting. And 5, I would suggest a subcommittee be formed to develop options for eventual full utilization of the shopping center and a vision for the future of the recreation building that dates from 1954.
Thank you very much. The third question is about diversity, all the types of residents, not just seniors, but families, young children, so forth. How can you be sure that your work will accommodate all of them?
As Alden previously mentioned, it's hard to put yourself in the perspective of people that aren't of your same ilk. And that's why I think it would be important to have an older person's voice. The 2002 and 2021 Community Needs Assessment Surveys provide helpful guidance on the satisfaction as well as the unmet needs of all these different groups. It will be important to not let these documents simply sit on a shelf, but be a constant resource for program and facilities planning. Fortunately, Age Friendly has additionally just finished tabulating 802 responses received from those Corte Maderans 60 and over from our own survey. It should be a goal to do everything possible to serve the requests of each of the demographics, but also design programs that integrate multiple generations that benefit all ages. I know in the past, the commission has struggled to have a member who would be able to bring older residents' perspectives. And after 10 years leading Age Friendly, I'm happy to help do that.
Thank you very much. And that takes you to your commitment question. Are you able to make the meetings physically? You said you already attend the meetings. Are you willing to come in person?
I am willing to come in person because now you got a whole new building.
We do, and it has a ramp. I know she specifically called to make sure it had a ramp. So thank you so much for your commitment, and we can allow you to make a 1-minute closing statement if you'd like.
I consider myself creative, reliable, easygoing, and dedicated to any project I take on. If you would choose me to serve this partial term, I hope I would be helpful in fulfilling the goals identified by Parks and Rec Commission and prove myself useful in working with the other advisors to the town. I have always been grateful to live in Corte Madera, and I tell people there's a reason the off-ramp is called Paradise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Patty. Okay, so we do have the opportunity now to discuss this. Do we open it for public comment first, or do we have questions, just comments? And if anyone has a motion. Now, there is the question of Patty is applying for the unfinished term. The other 3 candidates are applying for the full term. So we need to choose 2 candidates for the full term. And does that mean that Patty automatically gets the partial term because she's the only one who applied for it? Or how does that work?
I think that would be up to council, unless Patty was convinced
let's
to.
hear
I have one
guys.
question regarding that. The age-friendly Corte Madera came up, and the relationship of Patty in relationship to Will being on the parks, and will she be able to integrate and help enhance those 2 things together? Or will that be a conflict, and therefore the very thing she wants to help add to and has the most interest in would be conflicted in some ways, and so therefore she would be able to achieve some of those goals she would be best suited for?
There's a lot of variables at this point. Would there be potential conflicts of interest? Yes. Would we need to work through those conflicts, and she might have to recuse herself if she's on the Recreation and Park Commission from making certain recommendations? Possibly. If we just, at this point, we anticipate some type of partnership with Age Friendly and the town. I don't know what it looks like yet. Don't know what the roles are. So it's really difficult other than to say there may be potential conflicts. And, we will have to work through them.
And have you discussed that with Patty, and Patty still is comfortable, or there's been no discussion about that potentiality and choosing which side of the representation she's on with that?
I have not discussed it.
I think one thing to note that I think in her statement, she actually talked about, I think, the 4 or 5 things, and one of them was team programs and doing more. So I get the feeling that there's more diversification than just focusing in on senior programming.
Right. Or in particular, that relationship between those, if she's comfortable. I mean, that's just one of my concerns is I don't want her to feel, I want her to be where she can be the most productive. Right. So I want to make sure she hasn't signed up for something that basically hamstrings her, because I've seen that I suffer that sometimes. Right. So
It may be beneficial, though, that she's only applied for the partial term because it's only going to go 1 year. So if there are conflicts, then it would be fairly easy to,
Okay.
you know,
Well,
I'm looking at it
no,
as I
I
ask
mean, that's
questions here to
resource, so I
see.
hate to
There's-
lose her.
if conflicts exist, they're going to exist during 1 year or they're going to exist during 4 years. So
Right.
it's not,
But we don't have that relationship yet. You're not actually forming any relationship at this moment with, I mean, do you see a conflict? Do you think?
well, I can't really advise, but I can say that you can't be on both sides of a contract. And so, or grant or agreement. So if age-friendly Corte Madera, through its fiscal sponsor, is going to negotiate some type of agreement with the town, I mean, she can't be on both sides. So
So that's why she recuses herself.
yes,
But that's all she would
That's
have
what
to
the
do is
mechanism
recuse
is. You
herself. But then
recuse yourself.
any programming or any kind of decisions related to the programs that would flow through that, would she have to recuse?
I can't do this analysis
Okay,
on the
sorry.
spot. It's really going to
Mm-hmm.
depend on the nature of the agreement and the roles that she's going to play
Mhm.
with age friendly. So, but yes, there will be, there
And,
will.
and Parks and Recreation is only an advisory committee, right? It's not the same
Yes,
as the
but-
town council.
But the council has a history of taking recommendations that can affect the conflicts analysis. So it's complicated, but there's also the common law conflict doctrine, which is you can't serve.
Let's hear from
Two
Fred
different
and Rosa on
masters.
this issue.
So I'm not going to reflect on this one issue. What I would recommend is that we go ahead and reappoint Alden and Tim to those positions. They're both incumbents. They've done great jobs. I think Alden for last 2 years or so has actually chaired Park and Rec. She kind of championed it, parts of that through master plan. So I think we go ahead and appoint those two to the full 2-year terms.
Oh, okay, that's a suggestion, but let's hear from Rosa first before you start making motions, okay?
I'm not making most, it's just a recommendation.
Okay.
I was just going to add in to say that in a small town, whomever is voted in, whomever is, on any commission, the possibility of there being a conflict always exists. So we have that mechanism to deal with it as it comes up. So I don't necessarily think that, that should be a roadblock to anyone if they wanted to give their support to Ms. Stollier. Just to sort of throw out, my general, process for looking at candidates. I want to see and like to encourage people who've not been involved who want to be involved to get involved. And so as I look at the good work of certain incumbents in this, I think it's also good to look at, those who are, coming to this, either coming back or coming to it for the first time and place value on that as well. So I just wanted to throw that in into the discussion without suggesting one way or the other, who to vote for.
Well, yeah, so I asked the question, but so I'm comfortable with supporting the incumbents. In general, at the town, like well-performing incumbents are usually reelected unless you take issue to them. So for the two positions. And what I could say about Patty, I just want is that she's been coming to the council meetings and being very expressive about not just, a lot of different issues with the town. And she's really participatory and has been for quite some time. And if she wants to take that opportunity to try to do it on a on the Parks and Rec, I could also support that so that would be what I could support as well.
And then I can go along with Charles. I can support also putting Patty on there. I think if there is, I want to say any minor conflicts, it sounds like she would have to recuse herself. And I want to say if it got to the point where there's anything major, then I think our city attorney would have to have that discussion with her and we'd have to figure out where to go from there if it escalates up that high.
Thank you. And I'm in agreement in part because this is really hard because you're all such qualified candidates and we'd love to have you all come on. But I see Patty as this amazing resource. She is always there. She knows more about what's going on in town and her heart isn't just with the seniors. She really does care about the small children and the teens. And I just think the amount of hours she's put in, she deserves to be on the commission, and I would really put her first in on my list, but also Alden and Tim are excellent. I've been attending Parks and Recreation meetings too, and I think you guys are doing a great job and you're getting a lot of stuff thrown at you right now. It's a busy time on Parks and Rec. So do we have a motion?
So with that,
I'd only like to add one more thing. If we move forward with this motion, is also, as we always like to remind other applicants that aren't selected, that we have other commissions. And a lot of these commissions are also really busy. We're going through master plans on a lot of different commissions, and some other expertise, as I've seen, are better applied even to other commissions. And so I always encourage people to continue to participate in any way they feel comfortable, and it's not a judgment about this one commission. It's really so.
It's just an embarrassment of riches we have tonight, so.
so
Mike on. So are we individually casting our votes or is there a motion being made to do so?
I'll go ahead and make the motion. We appoint Alden and Tim to the full terms and appoint Patty to the current vacant term, which is for 1 year.
I think we also have to agree that we'd like to support a youth commissioner moving forward.
That's actually on the regular agenda.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't be making that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
And if you have a different opinion, I would just, there's two that I agree on and one that I would
You can make
Prefer-
an alternate motion.
You can.
make an alternate motion. Okay. All right.
Well, so there's one motion, but it hasn't been seconded. So it means that we can
We can have a
Continue-
discuss, we can
we can
continue to
to
discuss
discuss. So you can talk about the candidate that you're in
Okay.
conflict with, and we can work through it.
Okay.
And then either Fred can revise his, or we can make an alternate.
Okay. So what I will just
Or-
say, just on with my philosophy of wanting to get, more people involved and have a place at the table. I would support going with Kim, Tim, and Patty. Just because this would be a fourth term for Alden. And I think it's good to have more. I know people cringe at that, but I just think it's good to do that. And I'm just saying, I'm not feeling it's going to pass. I'm just giving you my opinion.
I love the sentiment that we want to keep bringing new people in, but Alden has been the chair for the last 2 years and they are being asked to do some kind of Herculean things and really get more hands-on than they have been. And I just don't know who you would be. If you pull her out, it's like the commission feels like it would have to kind of re-scramble and start over again. And I just think the time lost would be too much. I think she's
And you
too
don't think
valuable.
there's anyone else with her length of service or?
I don't think that's our
Knowledge.
decision to make.
It's
right now.
not, she's.
And it's not just, we could sit there and say, yeah, there is somebody, but that person would have to step up to it.
Can do it.
We don't,
Yeah.
that's not our decision. That'd have to be made within the Park and Rec Commission. I
Okay.
think with Alden, we still get continuity, we get consistency. I think something more important, we get the historical value. So things don't get lost, because especially when we get new commissioners, they don't have an understanding of the background where she worked directly with the master plan. So she has all the intricacies and the background with all that.
It's good legacy that she has.
Okay.
Maybe we want to talk though in the future about term limits. Maybe we shouldn't be hanging
Well,
around
that's
so
not a
long.
conversation to have now.
Right, so I'm just saying.
But I'm
to
just,
answer your concerns, that would be the kind of thing that we could talk about, because then if Alden had known that she could only do 4 terms, she would have groomed her replacement. She would have done a different thing. She wouldn't have come and applied. She would have been instead working on turning things over to new people, which I agree is a good thing. So maybe, it is something we could talk about at some other time.
Yeah, okay.
But-
Anyway, I just wanted to, put that on the table and we will proceed.
So do we
So-
have a motion?
So
or-
I'll make the second to Fred's.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Okay. Councilmember Casissa?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Ravazio?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, so that is the only item of business in that special meeting. So I think I can adjourn it. Is that correct?